Welcome, everybody, and this is the very first edition of Under the Radar. I believe is what we will call this. This is not Philip Antoine, the Podfather. This is Brandon Tanguma, the first ever Bulletcast champion in the Canadian Destroyer, as many people, or Philip, would like to call me. I don't really know anybody else who calls me that, but to each his own. So yes, this is my own show, the very first episode, so there might be some rough patches along the way. We're still ironing out the details of when this show will go on, as long as the main episode of the Bulletcast, because the kind of idea of this show is to kind of cover things that we do not cover on the Bulletcast main show. So I'm going to talk about NXT, going to talk about some other news, and yes, we will get the Total Bellas / Total Divas / Ms. and Mrs. We will get all the WWE reality show recaps that you guys truly desire, because I know everybody out there has been waiting for this, and this will be the first episode to where we get the Total Bellas recap. And so yeah, Under the Radar is what we're going to be calling this, or maybe, I don't know, it was kind of the best thing I could think of, and it kind of makes sense of what we're going for right now. So, right now, this is on a Thursday. Bulletcasts have been recording on Fridays. We're trying to see if we can move the Bulletcast episodes to Wednesdays. Maybe I can do this on Friday, kind of cover the stuff we didn't cover, and that always gives me a little extra time to watch NXT. Maybe Impact, if Impact gets its stuff together. And one thing is, there will be some cussing on this show. Not all the time. Maybe not on this episode. Maybe I'll contain myself. But sometimes I might let a few curse words go, just because that's how I feel. And there's no such thing as a bad word, in my opinion. Just bad intent. So if I just say, like, that was shit, I'm not like, that shouldn't be a bad thing. I'm just describing how that match, or maybe that rap video was, as we will get into right now. So Enzo Amore, or Real One as he is now known, I guess, on the rap scene. I love rap. I'm all about the Drake Pusha T beef that's going on right now. Kanye dropping an album, I think tomorrow on Friday. Him and Kid Cudi having something. Drake's Scorpion album coming out, and I'm pretty sure everything I just said is way better than this hot garbage that Enzo Amore just posted on World Star's YouTube channel, as well as the World Star Hip Hop website. He dropped this on Memorial Day Monday. I don't know exactly what the point of it was on Monday. Maybe he tries to go up against Raw, trying to steal some of Raw's fire. And I mean, this video. I mean, cinematography wise, I mean, it's shot beautifully, I guess. I mean, nothing really wrong about that, but just the rap itself, his flow is just hot garbage. It is terrible. The story, it's kind of hard to understand him. He's like kind of all over the place. If you don't know, the music video is called Phoenix, which is where the alleged, or not alleged, I guess, where I don't even know what to call it at this point, because he was found innocent, or not insufficient evidence was found about the alleged rape or sexual assault that woman said against Enzo. And I mean, it's just basically one big old diss against everybody who hates him. Even though on Instagram and Twitter, when he came back a couple weeks ago, his whole thing was about love, spreading love and giving hugs and free t-shirts to everybody. And this kind of just is a slap in the face to everything he was just saying. He's just, I guess the whole point is just him going, F all the haters, and all my real ones that ride with me. I'm with y'all. We're gonna go take these things to new heights. And this video is just it is terrible. Like, the first scene is like this fat guy on his couch in a garage, yelling at his mom because he's trying to watch wrestling. He's eating Oreos and he has like Cheetos all over his belly, and like, that isn't. I mean, it's just a stereotypical wrestling fan. And I just rolled my eyes seeing that, looking at that, and I'm like, am I really about to watch this video? And I sat through it. I don't exactly know why he did this. Maybe he understands that he's not a good wrestler at all, and he's not going to go back to WWE. So might as well just try to be a rapper, because, I mean, what else is he going to do? Maybe he tries to be an actor, which I don't see that happening either. But, yeah, so my favorite line in the whole video was he's rapping about something, and then just out of nowhere he says that he grabs his consensual penis, because he's not a rapist, he's not a Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein or anything like that, and he literally takes his hand, grabs his dick, not you know, you don't see his dick, but he has pants on and he grabs it, and I got a laugh out of that because he didn't just say that once. He said it a good three. I think he said it at least three times, and I popped every time I said that. He said that. This is bad. This is really bad. He has over 1 million views. 1,040,000 views at the moment. 36,000 thumbs up, which I guess is okay, but 12,000 dislikes, which I could have saw coming. I haven't really looked at the response in terms of like the wrestling community. Haven't really heard anybody talk about it, just because they probably roll their eyes at Enzo doing this as a diss track to wrestling fans, and because like when I first saw that, I thought that was going to be his entire video. It was just him dissing like the internet wrestling community and just calling everyone fat, lazy slobs. And then I kind of realized like, oh, it says Phoenix. That's where the thing happened. But I don't exactly know where Enzo's going to be going from here. Is he going to be a rapper, an actor? I guess we're going to have to stay tuned and find out. So, onwards to some actual wrestling news, I guess. Raw had his show on Memorial Day, the same day that this lovely Enzo Amore, or Real One, music video dropped. And the rating was not good. It drew a 1.70 rating, the lowest non-holiday rating in years, and barely beat out the Christmas night episode last year. That was a 1.69, and this should have been expected. A really tough night for Raw. Not only was it Memorial Day as a holiday, but it had the NBA Western Conference Finals, Game 7 with the Rockets and the Warriors going up against each other, as well as Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals with the Capitals going up against the Golden Knights. So a lot of competition that day. Not a shock that Raw got this low of a rating, but just WWE's ratings in general are going down, but compared to the rest of the TV landscape, they're good. Especially with Raw, they have the three, because every single episode, or every single hour of Raw counts as its own show, I guess, in terms of the ratings. So like when they come out in a week, the weekly ratings, Raw sometimes will have like 3 out of the top 10 spots just because they take it by hour. I don't exactly know how TV ratings work in terms of why they separate one show that's 3 hours long, but then for sports, I think for sports they just keep it as one show. I don't understand exactly what that means, but not a good story for Raw. Hopefully they can have a bounce back the next couple weeks. We will get into this at the end of the podcast, but there is the finals with the Warriors and the Cavaliers. I don't exactly know when these. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I don't think it goes up on a Monday. There might be one Tuesday game, but Game 2 is Sunday. Game 3, I think, is like a Thursday. So I don't really think the NBA Finals will be a factor with WWE ratings, but maybe the Stanley Cup will be a factor. We're just going to have to stay tuned and find out. But, so that's it for the Raw ratings. Onwards to the CM Punk Chris Amon trial that's going on. CM Punk and Colt Cabana are both named in the trial, where Chris Amon is suing CM Punk and Colt Cabana for defamation for the podcast that CM Punk did with Colt, 4 years ago? And this trial is just starting. It's in the very beginning. The first couple days have happened. Not a lot to report on right now, but there have been some interesting aspects to it a little bit. Some group chats and group text messages have come up from Amon's phone talking about how he's texting with Chris Jericho, talking with I think it's Jericho, Ziggler, and Ryder, all in a group chat. Just some interesting tidbits, nothing really to report on as of now, but probably within the next week or two as the reports or as the court goes on and some real information and some hard-hitting arguments start flying and maybe some poo starts getting slung across the table or whatever. Maybe this will get interesting. Maybe there will be a settlement before it even finishes. I hope not, because I think CM Punk has that big of an ego that he wants to take down Vince and WWE. And maybe, I don't know if this will be the final straw. This is like, CM Punk is never coming back, so he's just like, fuck it, I'm just going to try to win this court case. But You never know with Punk. He might come back just for that payday. He is having his UFC match on June the 9th against some dude, some tomato can, not a big name guy. I think he already lost a fight in the UFC, so it kind of shows that they're giving him some guy who isn't that good. At least when he fought Mickey Gall was a young upstart who were like, oh, he's pretty good. We haven't really seen him face that much competition, so maybe CM Punk can beat him. But no, Mickey Gall isn't like a great fighter at any means. He's not a Conor McGregor, but he's a good, decent, if you would put it in wrestling terms, maybe a upper mid card type fighter at the moment, with maybe the possibility of becoming a main eventer if he puts a couple wins together. But CM Punk's UFC career might be over on June if he loses. He might show up at All In. We already know he's doing the meet and greet for Pro Wrestling Tees. I don't think he's going to actually have a match there because they already sold out there. They kind of did their 10,000 seat of sellout that they wanted to do, so no point of stacking CM Punk on the card if you already have your goal of 10,000 seats. Might as well keep him. Maybe he does an appearance, maybe he sits front row, maybe he doesn't show up at all and people are just trolling, and maybe CM Punk tweets during it and just trolls everybody. But so that's it for some news. We will get into some TV reports. Let's get into this past week's episode of NXT. A very decent, I thought it was a really good show, setting up a lot of different matches for the NXT Chicago TakeOver show. So let's jump straight into it. Aleister Black makes his entrance dressed in his ring attire. One thing I like about NXT is they don't overshow. Jeez. See, this is what happens when you have your own show. You have to talk by yourself for very long periods of time, and I have to just bullshit my way through everything. And so Aleister Black comes out dressed to wrestle, so you're like, oh, maybe he's going to have a match. He cuts a little promo. One thing I love about NXT is they don't have their wrestlers on every single show every week. It's only an hour, so they only have a certain amount of time, 55 to 60 minutes, I guess, with commercials. And so when someone just comes out, they promoted Aleister Black's appearance last week, saying that he will be there. Didn't even say what he was doing, if he was going to talk, if he was going to wrestle. And I really like that. It really helps build the star power of the wrestlers. It's like, oh, they're a big deal. They're going to show up next week. We haven't seen them in a couple weeks. What are they going to do? Especially with Aleister Black being the NXT champion. No real clear challenger at the moment. So they're like, oh, is he going to call somebody out? Is somebody going to take a challenge to him? What's going to happen for TakeOver Chicago? And we see what happens here. Lars Sullivan comes out, and the first time I've ever heard him speak, I haven't been watching NXT TV lately, so now with the show, I'm going to try to watch every week so I can bring you some recaps. So Lars Sullivan talks. I thought he was articulate. That is kind of his gimmick right now. Is he's a big tough guy, but he's smart. So maybe kind of like Ryback, but they kind of made fun of Ryback because he read The Notebook. The Secret is the book that Ryback really loves. It would tell everybody they need to go out to because it's going to change their lives. But Lars Sullivan comes out, basically lays the challenge for Aleister Black. Before Aleister Black can really answer his challenge, they get into a little scuffle. Sullivan blocks a black mass kick by Aleister Black. Kind of Aleister Black's main move, his unstoppable moves. Once he kicks somebody in the head, it's over. But Sullivan was able to block it, hit his finisher, lays him out, and then later on in the show, actually, I don't know if it's I think it is official at this point that Aleister Black will go up against Lars Sullivan for the NXT Championship at Chicago the day before Money in the Bank. And I think it's a good matchup. I really like Lars Sullivan. I'm high on him. I don't think he's going to take the NXT Championship away from Aleister Black. I think this is kind of a little roadblock for Aleister. He can go over it. There's not really a blood feud. There's no real reason for them to kill each other. It's not Gargano or Ciampa or anything like that. But I do like that Sullivan is a big deal. He's been unstoppable for the past couple months. He's been on the scene. Aleister's been undefeated. He's a champion. I don't really want NXT champions to just get the championship to be hot potato like that, just going, especially almost kind of had a short reign with the title and then having Black lose it on his first title defense or first takeover defense. I don't think that's going to happen. But You never know with NXT. I think NXT is very well booked. One thing I did like about Aleister Black's promo, he didn't even say that much. It was kind of like the Rey Mysterio, Jeff Hardy thing, where he comes out, talks for a couple sentences, then he gets interrupted because they know he can't really cut a long promo. But he wasn't just facing the hard camera the entire time. He was like kind of walking around, talking like a normal person, addressing the crowd, and us as viewing audiences were kind of like looking in through the window into this show. Usually for WWE, for Raws and SmackDowns, the main audience is the TV audience. It's that hard camera. When they come out to start the show, Stephanie McMahon, has her back turned, almost half the crowd just looking straight into the camera, talking. And that kind of, especially when you're live and you're on the opposite of the hard camera, and someone cuts a 10-minute, 15-minute promo, all you're doing is you're just looking at their back for a long period of time. That just doesn't really get you involved as a fan or as someone in the crowd. And with Aleister Black kind of walking around, kind of addressing everybody in the crowd, not specifically looking into the camera and talking to it, I think that was a little detail that NXT gets that WWE should learn from. So hopefully this is a Triple H thing, and when Triple H hopefully takes over from Vince McMahon, if Vince McMahon ever seems to retire, sells the company, or God forbid dies, but we all know Vince isn't going to die. He's going to live on forever. Hopefully stuff like this gets implemented into the main roster. So onwards to the War Raiders, or War Machine. Hanson and Rowe go up against George Hickson and Cody Vincent in a tag team match, a squash match. Basically every match on this show was practically a squash match. This one was probably the most, the most squashiest of squash matches, as you would say. 2 minutes 49 seconds. Just the War Raiders going on a tear, killing people. They're big dudes. I've seen them in New Japan, seen them in ROH. This is just a stepping stone onto them possibly going on to be NXT champions one day. Haven't really seen them talk all that much, so don't know if they will get better in that regards. But that's something NXT works on. They have the promo classes. They have all those different classes to help people get better. War Raiders, as long as somebody else on this show, they change the name, but while other people don't, like EC3, Ricochet, I don't understand why they change some people's names and don't change others. I mean, War Machine, War Raiders, it's kind of the same thing. The War Machine wasn't that big of a name on the indie scene. Yes, people who watch ROH do know who they are, but I don't think they're as big of a deal as Ricochet or EC3. So I'm not up in arms about it. I don't exactly know if this is just like if there's a set of circumstances, there's like a checklist that they have to fill out for why someone gets to keep their name and someone doesn't. But it's not that big of a deal for me. It is kind of weird seeing such a similar name to what they were in the indie scene and having them called War Raiders. It just makes me want them to call them War Machine. But it is what it is. So onwards to EC3. EC3 kind of building up the last couple weeks about him being going to make NXT turn into NX3. So EC3 has a squash match against Fabian Eichner. One thing, the match was only 2 minutes and 30 seconds. EC3 made quick work of Eichner, but something that you never really see in WWE is basically two storylines kind of just crossing over each other for no apparent reason. So, last week on NXT, Johnny Gargano, who's been viciously attacked by Tommaso Ciampa, got put through a table, got kicked on the LED board. He's selling the neck injury, has a neck brace on. Him and Candice LeRae were contemplating what they should do with Johnny Gargano's future. And he does the whole fake retirement thing, and he says, "Oh no, I'm going to come back. It's all worth it." And he calls out Tommaso Ciampa. And something that I liked is that Candice didn't seem like she was in on the whole fake retirement thing. She thought that he was going to either retire or quit NXT or something, and he, pulled the bait and switch on her. And Candice was selling it. They go back and forth with Tommaso and Gargano, and then Gargano gets hit off the ring apron. He falls on Candice, so Candice has been knocked out. Don't have an update on Candice. Hopefully Candice is good. I pray that Candice feels better. It was a nasty fall that she took. But anyways, so while the match is underway with EC3, Johnny Gargano comes strolling through the ring, or through the back, not the backstage area, goes through the outside of the ring, goes to the commentary desk, throws down the contract, says that he signed it, and it's going to be Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano 2 in a Chicago street fight. So practically the same match that we saw at the last NXT TakeOver, where it was like an unsanctioned match. So there was some sort of weapons involved. Maybe since they had the ladder match last takeover, now they shouldn't have. I don't think they're having any gimmick matches besides the Chicago Street Fight on the NXT Takeover show. This is probably gonna be more of a hardcore. They're gonna break out the tables, ladders, and chairs, and all that other stuff. So basically this is a blood feud. They're kind of having this. The storyline was that Regal had Gargano and Ciampa basically stay away from NXT. He sent the contracts to them individually. They have to sign them and return them back. So we haven't seen Tommaso sign the contract. He hasn't turned it in yet, so we don't exactly know if there's going to be any tweaks to the match, if he's going to hold out to be like, I don't want a street fight, I want this type of match, or something's going to go on where Ciampa says he wants this type of match and Gargano just wants his hands on Ciampa and he says, whatever, just give me, we can have a steel cage match, a last man standing match, even though I don't think they're going to have a last man standing match, since that's what's going to go on for Nakamura and AJ Styles. But we will see what goes on with that. So EC3 wins, standard squash match. It is what it is. Lacey Evans cuts a promo. She beat Kairi Sane last week. Kairi Sane beat her, I believe, in the Mae Young Classic. I'm not exactly sure, but the whole story is they're 1-1. So next week they will have the rubber match between Kairi Sane and Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans cuts a nice little promo. Her whole Rosie the Riveter gimmick. So she, talks about being a strong woman and stuff like that. Decent little promo that she cut to build the promo or build the match going forward. Obviously, Kairi Sane isn't going to cut a legendary promo to get everyone hyped for the match. But, it's a standard sports-like feud. I beat you once, I beat you another time, so now we're going to face each other and see who's the better woman. Bianca Belair had a video package, a kind of sit-down interview, kind of talking about her career, her life. Talked about how her great-grandfather was like the first black electrician in North Carolina. Her dad or her grandpa has like a PhD and a master's and stuff. And she was a star athlete. So basically there was like no room for error for her. She had to succeed. She had to be a star athlete. She had to do something. So she excelled in track and field, basketball, cheerleading, a whole bunch of different stuff. She gets a full ride to Tennessee. She wins a whole bunch of stuff there, and then after that she didn't exactly know what to do, so she decided to go to CrossFit, and that's how she was able to get noticed by WWE. She tried out for them, and then now this is where she is now. I thought it was a good little promo package to build up Bianca Belair. I wish they did this for WWE guys, especially people who get called up to NXT, because obviously not everyone who watches WWE watch NXT, so I asked this so many times, especially for Apollo Crews, which is laughable now because of where he is with Titus O'Neil, but they did this exact same thing with Apollo Crews a year or two ago when he went up against Finn Balor for the championship. He had a sit-down interview. He was a likable guy. We heard his life story, and I knew he wasn't going to win, but it made me understand his character more, especially with him on the indie scene as Uhaa Nation. I didn't really know who he was. He was just the guy he was a muscular guy who did flips, and just having that layer that we have of Bianca Belair or Apollo Crews, just knowing who they are as a person makes them develop more as a wrestler and as a character. We saw them try it, I guess, with Bobby Lashley, and we all know that didn't work out. But this is an organic, just not that hard, like things NXT does that is so much better than what the main roster does are such simple things like this. Just a sit-down package, a sit-down interview, 5 minutes, put some B-roll of her doing track, CrossFit, her tryout. And the thing with this is, it wasn't really clear if she was being a heel or being a babyface, because at the beginning, it's all about comes from all this privilege, she has all these, strong black people in her life, it's all upbringing, it's all fantastic, she's this great person, but then she also talks about her kind of being not lazy, but kind of not trying as hard because she doesn't want to put extra pressure on herself and extra attention on herself. And then now that she's in WWE, she's not going to do that. She's going to be the best. She's the EST of NXT, as she calls herself. So, not really clear on what she is, if she's a babyface or a heel at this point, but that's fine. It just kind of makes you understand who the person is, and it makes me more invested in her, because obviously, she was in the Mae Young Classic, she had a decent showing. She has the hair whip, which is kind of her big gimmick at the point. She's not a great wrestler. She's really green, as they kind of talked about in the package, where all she does, I mean, the only wrestling experience she has is from WWE. She wasn't on the indie scene. She didn't go to Japan. But just having a promo package like this makes me want to see her. So we have to see what happens with Bianca Belair. Hopefully, she's a really good athlete. She has a nice core base of strength and agility. So hopefully she can turn that into some sort of wrestling career. I mean, you see people like Lana and Naomi. They're athletic people, but sometimes it just doesn't translate in the ring. Hopefully, Belair can do this. Ricochet goes up against Chris Dijak, formerly known as Donovan Dijak, on the indie scene. This is Chris Dijak's TV debut. He's been doing some house shows for NXT, but it was basically a squash match for Ricochet. Chris got some offense in. He tries to go for a moonsault. He does not hit it. He practically landed on his head, which is kind of a scary moment. Ricochet beats him with a 630 senton. Decent match. Good back and forth between them. But then Velveteen Dream comes out first Ricochet comes out. He talks about Velveteen Dream kind of showing his true colors and blah, blah, blah. The Velveteen Dream comes out, talks about Ricochet. They kind of go back and forth. And then he challenges him for the TakeOver show in Chicago, so setting up another match for the TakeOver show, and probably the moment of the week. I saw gifs of it before I even saw the show, so I knew this was coming. Definitely the move of the week, maybe the month. I don't know, but Ricochet does a tope con hilo, which basically means he jumps over the top rope. He does a front flip, and he lands on his feet at the feet of the stage, and he goes up to Velveteen Dream. And basically what happened was Velveteen Dream says that anything Ricochet can do, he can do better. So then Ricochet does the thing. He jumps over the top rope, lands on his feet, and says, "Show me." And the Velveteen Dream sells the hell out of it and just is totally shocked. I thought Velveteen Dream's facial expressions were a little goofy, but that is kind of his gimmick. But this feud right now is just on fire. I think this can be a show stealer. We all know that Gargano and Ciampa can have a great match, but we did see this once before, so it's kind of like, okay, we saw it once. It's maybe, I mean, it's gonna be a great match. Both of them are gonna be a great match. Probably gonna be a great show overall. I have my confidence that Ricochet and Velveteen Dream can absolutely tear the house down. Velveteen Dream, I'm not as high on him as many other people are. I just see him as kind of a character, goofy guy. He has a decent moveset. He's a good, alright worker. But I think Ricochet, especially with this being his first big match in NXT, yes, he was in the ladder match, but he was with a bunch of other guys. He got to do his flippy doos. But I think with Ricochet being on a single stage in a big match, maybe the hottest match of the show, this can be something fantastic. So I hope they get the time. I hope they do something really good with this. And TakeOver Chicago is shaping up to be a good show, and I am very excited to see it. So they ran the main event of this show is Dakota Kai going up against Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship match. The whole premise of this match was Dakota Kai faced off against Shayna Baszler a couple months ago. Shayna Baszler steps on her elbow, sort of like breaks her arm, I guess, and this was kind of leading up to the Shayna Baszler Ember Moon match. So Ember Moon came out, saved her before Shayna did any more damage to Kai. And so Kai comes back, and then Baszler kind of has been playing mind games with her, and Dakota's been selling that she's scared of Baszler, and she's trying to get her confidence back up. And I thought it was a really good video package. I wish they did stuff like this on Raw and SmackDown more, especially for big matches that they build up for a couple weeks. I mean, even like if you have a match like the Jinder Mahal Seth Rollins match. I mean, they didn't really exactly do anything, but let's say they did, or if they had the Roman Reigns Jinder Mahal match, say next week, you build it up, you have a little video package, and it kind of gets people up to speed, especially with people like me who haven't seen NXT for a while in terms of the TV product. It really got me up to speed on what was going on with the day-to-day and why this is such a big match, and it made me feel like it was a big match, and I thought the story they told in this match was really good. As I said, basically everything was a glorified squash, and this was one as well. I mean, as an NXT Women's Championship match, it's probably as one-sided as you're going to get. I thought this was a great match, even though Dakota Kai did not get very much offense, but I thought the story they told in this match was phenomenal. Kai was getting cornered by Baszler. She was still timid. She didn't want to really know how to attack Baszler. Baszler just toying with her, just beating her up. She puts her in leg submission. She hits her elbow again, but then Kai makes a fiery comeback, hits a couple kicks. Baszler's on the ropes, but it just wasn't enough. Shayna Baszler's too overpowering, beats Dakota Kai, chokes her out, and that was it. Only 5 minute 30 seconds. But I thought this was a great match in terms of the story they told. You can have great matches in 5 minutes, and they don't have to be a Ricochet Velveteen Dream type match that I think they'll have, where they have big high spots and all that stuff. Just telling a simple story like this, especially on an NXT TV show where it's only an hour, they don't have that much time to fill. So a 5 minute match that tells such a great story of the babyface, the underdog babyface who's scared of the monster heel. She is scared in the beginning. She kind of gets her confidence back, beats her up a little bit. Maybe if she was confident throughout the entire thing, maybe Dakota Kai should have won, but Baszler ultimately was just too much for her and beats her. So after the match, Baszler reapplies the chokehold on her. Nikki Cross comes out to make the save, and Nikki Cross basically takes the championship away from Baszler and tells her to come and get it. And then Baszler comes and tries to get it, but then Nikki Cross takes it away from her, and she gives the title to Dakota Kai and tells Dakota to be the referee for her match between her and Shayna. And then Nikki Cross hits her finishing move for the win, for the pseudo win, I guess. Dakota Kai counts the 1, 2, 3. So, in Nikki Cross's crazy, wacky mind, she is the new NXT Women's Champion. So she goes around the building, running around in the crowd, holding up the championship. Ultimately, this is probably setting up to be a Women's Championship match between Baszler and Cross. I think it would be a good match. I think it would be maybe not a character match with Nikki Cross kind of being over the top crazy, but I think it would be a good thing. Couple weeks away, so not a lot to build off of, but I think it can be a really good match in ring. So I thought a really great show of NXT. So if you have not been watching NXT, if you only go out and watch the takeover matches or takeover shows as I've been doing, definitely I recommend going out to see this show. It was great. So onwards to another great show. Here we go. Are you ready? We have the Total Bellas review. Cena and Nikki. It looks like this was the start of the breakup between the two. It's so sad. So I don't exactly know how to get into it, but basically Nikki throws an engagement party with her and Cena. They invite all of her friends. They invite family, friends, blah 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 blah. And the whole thing was that Nikki accidentally let it slip that one of Cena's best friends might be the best man, because he's his best friend, even though John has other brothers. And Brie was like, "Why would you say that? Because we all know." Blah. This show. I don't know what show I'm talking about. Total Bellas or this show is just gone to shits. But that's why you're listening, because it's a process. Maybe right now it's going to be the drizzling shits, and then maybe the next episode is going to be fantastic. But you're going to sit here and listen and be like, I was there when this show was terrible, and now it's okay. So Nikki Bella tries on some wedding dresses. I don't exactly know what all the different wedding dresses look like. She looked fabulous in all of them. But the main takeaway from the show was Lauren and JJ. So JJ is Nikki and Brie's brother. They announced that they are having a second kid on the way, and the whole premise of the episode is practically that Nikki was kind of sad. She really wants a kid, especially when Brie had Birdie. She kind of saw the connection between her sister and her niece, and she really wants that. And she understands that John isn't going to give her that kid, and oh goddamn, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I was watching the A's game, and the very final out, the shortstop bobbles the ball and catches it with his hand. So, if you're watching SportsCenter, you're watching something, go out of your way and watch that fantastic play by Chad Pinder to end the show. Was that Chad Pinder? I think it was, because Marcus Simeon having a kid, speaking about having babies. Shout out Marcus Simeon, put on paternity leave. So, so Nikki really wants to have a kid, and she knows John is going to give it to her. That's kind of the one rule that John has. Obviously, he said he was never going to get married again, but we all know that didn't happen because he proposed to her at WrestleMania 33. What a beautiful sight that was. So the cliffhanger of the show was they go to sit, because they wanted first off, Nikki wanted to have the wedding in Napa. Didn't really tell John about that. John wanted to have it in West Newbury so he can have his family there. Nikki didn't actually tell John that she wanted it in Napa, so that was kind of not an argument, but kind of discussion they had. And John was like, "Okay, if you're gonna tell me things, you got to tell me. Don't be holding out on me and saying things at the last minute because I'm just gonna screw everything up." So they go to Napa and they're going to look at a vineyard to have their wedding ceremony at. And then Nikki and John sit down in the hotel room, and it looks like they're going to have the talk. And this is the talk where they break up, and they say they call off the wedding. And something that's interesting is it seems like this is pretty early in the year, like maybe even late last year, maybe late December, early January, because the next episode is Raw 25, I believe, and that's when Nikki and Brie come back, kind of the first time they've been at WWE in a long time. And the story is that Nikki has to hide this information from everybody because everybody thinks, oh, John and Nikki are going to get married. It's going to be this fantastic thing. But nope, Nikki and John are actually broken up. They've called off the wedding, but nobody knows this. So we found out that the wedding was called off in April. And if this has been going on since at least early January, I mean, 3 months that this has been news. And it hasn't leaked by anybody. I mean, that's good for the Bellas and the Cenas for having some tight lips on them. But, so yeah, that was the Total Bellas recap. Probably not as great as you guys all thought it was going to be. But, yeah, so the John Nikki sex saga continues. Next week is probably going to be the breakup episode where all the stuff goes down. People are going to start crying. Brie started training for the Royal Rumble. And I thought it was fun footage to see Brie and Bryan wrestle each other. I know they talked about on their YouTube channel that WWE didn't want the Bella Twins to post stuff about Bryan wrestling with Brie because they didn't want to give out either false hope or show that Bryan was wrestling, because I don't know if that was some like legal thing or they just didn't want people thinking that he was able to wrestle even though they weren't clearing him to wrestle. So that was just another little thing. So basically Total Bellas is just, all these little tidbits. And the whole show right now is just building up towards the wedding that we thought was going to happen, but obviously now we know that it's called off. So that is it for episode 1 of Under the Radar. It was a little shitty. I'm not going to lie, but that's okay. It's called Growing Pains. I'll get used to this eventually. I went 37 minutes, a little longer than I thought it was going to be, but once I get going, I get going. So thank you guys very much for listening. However you consume this is put up on YouTube, I don't know what's going on. I just record it, send it out to the higher-ups, and they upload it to wherever they feel fit. So thank you very much. Feel free to follow the Bulletcast on Twitter and Instagram at Bulletcast. I'm on Twitter, Cheese510. The first E is a 3. Don't get it twisted, even though I don't really tweet that much. Instagram is Cheese510. Cheese_510. Just spell it the cheese, I know. If you want to know why my nickname's Cheese, maybe we have to find out later on in the episode. Maybe. But thank you guys, and goodbye and good night.